So we've just ended a 9-day awakened living project here at New Eden, and it was a very, very special time. And I thought in this month's newsletter, I would talk a little bit about some of the highlights and some of the learnings. Because at the Awakened Living Project, we are, of course, going deep with our personal work and our journey to expand and evolve. But we're also learning to be in tribe together. And what does it mean to be in sisterhood and brotherhood, to live and coexist in community? And this experience isn't so much about, hey, we've got all the answers and this is how to do it. It's more about, let's explore together what are the questions and can we live in the question, not in the answer. And yet there were some beautiful highlights. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them, but I thought I would just kind of share a snapshot of a few things that touched me personally. And yeah. So let's get straight into it, shall we? Just as a quick summary, this 9-day Awaken, or actually it was over 10 days, Awakened Living Project started with a men and women's retreat separately. Summer from the US flew in and she held the women's space. I took on the men's space for the weekend. Beautiful, deep, nourishing experience with the brothers. And in this piece, the part that I'd like to highlight is I really felt my longing to experience and have brotherhood that does not necessarily come out of my work in retreat. It feels very much like I get my brotherhood and men's work needs through the retreat work I do, and it just doesn't feel enough. I can't really drop out of the role that I have been paid to be in. And it feels important that I stay in that role. You know, a lot of people say, oh, just de-roll and become one of us. And it's like, yeah, but everyone has paid really good money to get my expertise and to deliver a curated experience for, these guys. And it doesn't feel right or professional to just drop that hat. For the sake of my needs, what I need to do is take responsibility for the fact that, brotherhood and men in my life is really, really important, as I'm sharing that with all the men that are coming. And it's important that I find a resource of that for me personally in my life. And yet, it feels so good to connect with the men inside the Heart IQ community because we're all sharing the same language, the same culture, interests, preferences. We all have a similar foundation because the brotherhood work that we do is built around regulation and a form of male intimacy, not sexual intimacy or anything like that, but in terms of the importance of men being able to be good with receiving touch, for example, and being nurtured and nourished and resourced by the nervous system of other men in a tribal kind of energy. So a lot of men's work can be a little bit like chest beating, confrontational, challenging, holding people accountable, getting into the warrior, rather than slowing down, softening, opening the heart, and really coming into a more nourishing container. And so my work with men is really about disarming the caked on resistance and all the tension and all the push and the toxic kind of anxiety that builds up in a male-bodied nervous system. And so, because that's the kind of thing that I've been dealing with, I don't need to go into a room to chest pump and do more and push towards my goals and accomplish my dreams. I'm living my dream. I'm on purpose. I know what it feels like to be driven and ambitious and deeply inside wanting to push every last morsel out into my life. So I don't need to go to a space to kind of motivate me in my life. I need a space to wind down, to discharge all that tension, to be in a place where I can fully relax and open my heart to other men, not see them as adversaries or competitors or challengers in some high stakes game of life. So, I teach what I need to receive the most. And yet, as I said, as a role, I find it sometimes hard to fully receive that gift back. So what was fascinating by the experience with the men this time is that a few of my regulars, the guys that come a lot and who've really stepped now more into expertise themselves as facilitators and men that are doing the work, they're coming together and they came up with this idea of creating like a soul spa for men, like a spa for the soul, where men come regularly, myself included. So it's not a led experience from the front of the room doing deep dive mat work and expanding emotional ranges in circle, but it is designed as a place where men can gather to be replenished, to lick their wounds, to have the joy of brothers coming together in the way that we know is possible in hard IQ. So not necessarily gathering together in a sports bar, getting drunk, getting high, or going to some kind of football match. Not saying any of those things are bad experiences. I'm just saying that there's a deeper connective fabric and culture that's available within the hard IQ community that men who've done gatherings with me will know exactly what that is. It's like a new normal that can't be got elsewhere. So to create like a spa for this, for the masculine soul to be able to be nourished and nurtured and to have fun and to replenish and to basically come in depleted and come out absolutely lit up. When I heard about this, I thought, oh, cool. Imagine having something like that, a weekend every month available just to drop in and just have fabulous brotherhood time. So yeah, out of that longing came this. So I'm really, really happy about that. And it's not something that I'm going to need to create either. This is going to emerge from the field of brothers that have done the work. It's something that can now emerge and invite me in, which, as you'll hear about in a minute, is a theme that came through in other parts of the Awakened Living project as well. So that was the men and women's retreat. I can't speak much about the women's experience, except when I spoke to women who and saw the women who came through this, they just came out, so slowed down and open and bright and radiant. So whatever Summer does with her little magic circle stuff, it's working. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Then immediately after the men and women's weekend, we went into our 5-day kind of awakened living experiment. And this is where there was a smaller group, so maybe around 12, 13, different people would come in different sessions. It was very open, There were sessions, but these sessions were all optional. People could work during the day, morning practice maybe in the morning, and then circle in the afternoon or circle in the morning. It was very spontaneous, small group, anywhere between 12 and 17 people. And the idea was to co-create and to navigate what it's like to kind of bring Heart IQ into daily life with the theme around slowing down. So the intention was around what happens if we slow down. If we slow down, can we still feel like not to slow down? That means I'm deactivating and I'm completely going to sleep. A lot of people, they do kind of go passive, or in the trauma-informed language, it would be hypo-aroused, this sense of like deactivation and like falling a bit asleep. But slowing down isn't about decreasing our life force and kind of being in that energy of hypo-arousal. It's to be fully alive, but in connection with slowness. This relaxed arousal is a really good state to practice being in when we're doing life, right? So we learned a ton in these 5 days, and I could say for myself that it was really challenging. And what was challenging for me was this. I was bringing my circle work, but not fully, because the idea wasn't for me to bring in my full kind of 100% facilitator mode, where I'm going to blow open the room and give people an ayahuasca journey in circle, for example. So I found myself putting handbrakes on around what was I going to do? How's I going to be? and I was wearing a bit of a straitjacket that I put on myself. I limited it to like sharing circles, so not really taking space, not really any mat work, didn't even have a mat in the middle. And it was awkward. I found it frustrating in moments. I found myself bored and annoyed as I was slowing down and slowing down and slowing down. But what was amazing was that processes started to pop that would never normally pop in a more charged environment, including in my own life. I remember one night going to bed and this overwhelming grief as some past heartbreak got to be felt that I just hadn't given time for it to be felt. Similarly, some rage and anger that was underneath came through in another day. And so actually, when I allowed this slowness to take form, it started to bring up all these emotions that didn't want to be felt. And I resisted them at first, blamed the whole environment and culture and what we were doing, but only realized that actually this is very profound. I'm healing and allowing myself to feel things that I haven't felt in ages. So it was working. It just didn't always feel particularly exciting to that part of my nervous system that's used to kind of like just going for it. But yeah, it was very, very good. And I also learned about the fact that Summer and I, we kind of like over-guided the group. And we had the feedback that, you know, in communities where people are coming together, there's this forming phase and then storming phase and there's norming phase, right? And we were staying too long in the parental role of holding the space and guiding. And we started to go back into certain patterns of us delivering circle and holding structure and not allowing really the community to take on and take ownership and to kind of emerge as its own intelligent organism. And this is just a continual learning for me around how to let go. And then I had this realization. I was like, I don't want to just be a participant where I'm in this place where I have this resource, this skill, this ingredient that is really important, and just be in this organic, chaotic creation. That's not fun for me. And I like the idea of just being in some random open circle where everybody is leading is just absolute nightmarish for me. It's just not my idea of community. And I asked myself, well, I don't want to be a dictator either, even though some people go, you got a dictator shadow. But I don't want to be like responsible for the whole thing and creating so much structure that it doesn't feel like a community at all. It just feels like a cult or some kind of like mummy and daddy are holding the space. And so everyone else is kind of like children passively following. That's not it either. So I started to wonder like, okay, where can I be in my zone of genius, bring in my clarity, consciousness, and embodied experience, while not taking over as like the leader or the one that's facilitating, and now it turns into a retreat, even though it's supposed to be a community, daily living experience, right? So there's this balance that I was trying to figure out that, we were trying to learn about. And what made it hard was that also some people were coming and going, and there was no consistent time each day that the whole group of people doing this Awakened Living project during these 5 days could all attend. And that felt fragmented to me. And not all of them had done hard IQ or even had an experience. So they were going, what is this thing that we're supposed to be integrating? I don't even know what that is. I've not had an experience of it. And we're like, yeah, that would help. So a lot of things we would do differently in the next one in June, which is the plan, of course, to run a longer and deeper dive version and take this on. I think what we're going to do is do it where we train people how to live in community and do circle in the weekend. And then the next 5 days, it's lived, and like we just allow it to move. And then we take another weekend, we go deeper with the training, and then we allow it to go deeper again. So it's like a mixture of like community circle training followed by an experience of living that, and then going back into an experience of deep dive training and then living that. That's something that we were thinking might be really, really helpful. But for me personally, I started to have this longing where, because right now, as you know, I'm the founder of this modality called Heart IQ. It's a therapeutic awakening experience, which basically people are coming for their own growth, right? They come with themselves or their partner to deepen, to awaken, to expand emotional energetic ranges, and to do that together in tribe with other people. So they're basically coming for like group therapy in a way. They're paying to get my expertise to penetrate through their defenses and do open heart surgery on an emotional level. So that's classically what Heart IQ is. It's not a community. It is the community of Heart IQ is a group of people who have all been touched by the work. So the community is built around the fact that we've had a shared experience being encircled together, and it's been profound. But that experience didn't just happen organically and by accident. It was very curated and designed by me. In other words, I've become the source of a frequency or transmission that people have gathered to inhabit and be a part of. Out of that, something has opened, it's touched them, and now they've met other people who've been touched by the same. That is what the Heart IQ community is. It's a group of people who've been touched by the transmission of the modality of Heart IQ that calls individuals and couples in for their own healing. So then the question becomes, well, how do you actually live daily life using Heart IQ principles and practices and tools to get the consciousness and the upgrade and the expansion, but not necessarily be guided and led by myself, and to have it be a retreat where I'm the one in charge? So this is the conundrum. And where I've landed right now is like, well, being the one responsible for creating the event, inviting people in, and then it's kind of like my retreat, my business, and they're basically my quote unquote participants. That's not community living. But neither is just allowing people just to come and do their own thing and I'm not a part of it either. Like I'm turning off my leadership. That's not it either. So the black and whites aren't really where it's at. So then what is it? And I think what I'd love, and this is just an idea, I don't know how this is actually going to play out in real life, but it almost feels like my longing would be that a group of people who've been touched by the work would come together and go, we want to live in community. We want to be a community, whether it's live, in person, or online. Like, it's important. We're a tribe. Now, we've been opened and brought together by Christian, and we also want to be able to have access to the ongoing skills, resources, and kind of wisdom that transmission can continue to afford and offer us. So there's an invitation to kind of call me in at periodic moments and times to bring the specific gifts and transmissions that I'm here to give. But it's an invitation that comes from the community to me rather than me gathering the people for that. It's actually a different piece. It's actually like, hey, this tribe can do with an upgrade. It needs it's not like to be invited into the role of tribal leader, because I don't really see it as like leadership around decision making around life, like a tribe maybe in other times of our history might do. And it's not a shaman either, or a spirit, but it is the form, it is in a way like it's not even a teacher in that regard, but it's a mixture of like sage, magician, some kind of person which has access to a specific set of gifts that the community needs to stay conscious, coherent, kind of clean, not in the sense of hygiene, but clean in the sense of like certain patterns of destruction and unhealthy ways of relating and different things could be called and spoken into. And like, it may all sound like everybody who lives in community can do that on their own. Like, we don't need that. We don't need that kind of, it's not supervision. Let's call it guidance. But I beg to differ. Most communities fail miserably because there can be deeply entrained dynamics that are not healthy. And yet when there is a guru, for example, that is also unhealthy. But I think there's something ancient about a specific role that gets invited to play a specific role and then can be de-rolled to become a normal member of the community at other times. I think that could work really, really well. So I'm kind of wanting to be invited into a specific place to really bring my gifts for a specific period of time and then be released and enjoy and be part of the family that I'm a part of. And this was the success of the last part of the Awakened Living Project. So we did these 5 days, which was a mixed bag, learned a lot. But the last weekend was where I could just give my gifts fully. It was called Thriving in Tribe, a weekend from Friday until Sunday. And it felt like I was just desperate after the first 5 days after the men's retreat going, okay, I just want to be able to leave the handbrakes and just go for it. And it was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. I loved every second of it. It was a bliss. We had 34 of us in circle. And for a weekend, it was probably the deepest weekend I've ever done, where it was just a weekend, Friday to Sunday. I've done some that have gone very deep from Thursday to Sunday. That extra day helps. But a Friday afternoon to a Sunday afternoon, so basically just 2 days, I have never experienced something so wildly beautiful. Such a coherent group, conscious group, and open and loving and willing to take space and emerge and surrender on the mat together. Mixture of old people and brand new people who've never done it. Perfect. Loved it. My connection and co-facilitation with Summer was smooth and beautiful. It was just great. Really, really enjoyed it. But what it was you can see, like in that weekend, that's where people were like, understand, like, this is the upgrade of how to live. This is the possibility of how we can be together. And that's when I realized, like, yeah, this is what a Hard IQ community awakened living project should be in the future. Not all communities will be like this, because some people just want to come together with random people and do it on their own. But for me, it's like, no, like, bring me in, let me do my magic, let me do my thing, let me infuse a certain possibility, and then let that kind of like integrate in the days after as a form of practice to apply it, and then figure out what's working and what's not working, and let's go again deep, and then let's apply it. Okay, then figure out what's working, what's not working, and then come again into going even deeper. So it's this combination of allowing the expertise and leadership that does come from someone, in this case myself, to be infused in collaboration and connection with the integration of community living is probably going to be the best way forward. That feels really, well, at least it lights me up in that regard. And there's also this special, I'll just share one last moment that was really cool. There was loads of beautiful moments in this last retreat, but there was one moment that was very special, and that was, we have this agreement in Circle that says that, well, is it an agreement? Well, the agreement is that at any moment, if someone doesn't feel safe, where they think something is really not okay that's going on, and they're about to like really go into shock and check out if they stay present to what's happening. And the only option they have is to run out of the room or to leave the room to basically stay sane. That they can pull the emergency brake, and we pause and we listen and we honor that voice, and we don't gaslight it. We honor it, listen to it, and we allow for that voice to have wisdom. And if necessary, we might change what happens so that they're met. So it's not about democracy where the majority rules. It's where we really need to make sure that no one is left behind. And this is a really important community principle. And a big part of the Hard IQ philosophy that I have as a facilitator is that I facilitate the group, not the individual, which means my priority is on the group health, not on the individual's needs. So let's say somebody's taking space, they're going into a deep process. If that process isn't serving the group, I'll end the process. Whether it's serving the individual or not, I don't care. My priority is on the group field and the health of the field, not on the individual taking space. So this principle has saved the day so many times, and it is one of the most essential facilitator skills to develop, is not only the awareness of the field, but prioritizing the health of the field. So, for example, there was this moment where somebody wanted to take space, and it was an edgy space. They were really courageous to go to an edge of wanting to explore a specific shadow. But this specific shadow was too much for another participant in the group. They made it clear very quickly, like, I can't be present to this. I need to leave the room. And instead of saying, okay, come back in 10 minutes when this is finished, I said, okay, after finding out that, okay, this is genuinely a need to not be witnessing this right now, the person who was taking space was invited to kindly surrender the space and not proceed with what they were going to do. And the group energy just opened through that, because there's a massive sigh of relief, not because they all agreed that it shouldn't happen, but when they saw an imprint of a voice that was in the minority being heard and validated and made important, it created an instant relief in the field, instant safety, and it allowed the whole circle to go deeper, and then the spaces became even richer. So there's something about that moment that just reminded me of, like, this is such a pivotal piece of community living, because, you know, we're so conditioned to be a bit selfish and self-interested and moving to our own rhythm and to our own sovereignty and agency and our own self-interest and our own impulses, that we sometimes forget to stay attuned and to adapt and shapeshift a little bit to the needs of the larger organism, and to go as fast as the slowest person and to not leave anybody behind, which means if that's what you're going to do, you need to be very selective, actually, and not careful, but what do you call that? Discerning around who you enter community with. Because you want to make sure that if you want to really blow the roof off and go to the stratosphere, you need to make sure that everybody is on board and has the capacity and the nervous system kind of training and all the trauma work that allows you to navigate these things. Because if you don't, and you leave people behind, it's going to be very, very painful and fragmenting to the community as well. So it's things like that was just like, it brought the whole theme of thriving in tribe real and embodied. And it just left us feeling, everyone just left that retreat feeling whole, complete, open, and deeply, deeply grateful. So I'm just glad that the 10 days just ended on such a stunningly beautiful space. I'm looking forward to what comes next. I'm just integrating now, taking some time before the next training I'm doing now. I'm going to the UK next Monday to do the next field facilitator training in Glastonbury, UK. And then pretty much coming straight back to New Eden to do our Intimacy Redefined, our couples only retreat. I'm doing that one with Larissa. And last call for that. If any of you want to come with your partner and do mat work and go deep and look at relational dynamics and upgrade your relating patterns and just get some amazing tools to deepen your intimacy, you're going to absolutely love what we've got planned for this week, starting February the 5th until February the 11th. So with that, thank you for listening to this update. And I will speak to you very, very soon. Love to hear your thoughts, share your comments as always, and